Good morning, afternoon. This is Chris Jolly, and today we are going to be doing the Force.com Canvas Summer 14 webinar. I am Chris Jolly. I am one of the principal developers on Force.com Canvas, and with me is my co-host, Carrie Hotchkiss. She's a senior quality engineer, and together we are going to talk about what Salesforce Force.com Canvas is and give you an overview of some of the new features coming. This wouldn't be a Salesforce presentation without the obligatory safe harbor statement. Basically what this statement says is please don't make any future purchasing decisions based off any forward-looking statements or any of the new features that we're about to show you. Please make purchasing decisions based off just generally available features that are available today. We are a social bunch here at Salesforce. Feel free to reach out to us on Twitter with our Salesforce Devs handle or our new Force Webinar hashtag. We are also available on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Google+. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, as well as past webinars regarding Canvas. So feel free to share this, and this will be posted on YouTube. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them now. Don't wait until the end of the webinar. Please respect the Q&A etiquette, which means don't repeat your questions over and over. We will be working at them. If we don't know them, we will be posting the Q&A answers at the end of the. I'll be answering them at the end of the session. We will also post the answers later. You can also always head to the developer forums where there are lots of conversations, and you can look at past conversations or start some new ones. Don't forget to miss out on Dreamforce 2014. You get a discount code right there. Last 2 years we've been active at Dreamforce. We've given many presentations. There's also training available there. Last year they had quite a few training courses that were packed. So sign up early and register for your classes and your training. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to give you a 10,000-foot overview of what Canvas is, kind of recap what we've talked about in the past, but kind of give people who are new to Canvas a quick overview. I will talk about some of the spring features that are available today, and then I will hand it over to my co-host Carrie, and she's going to talk about some of the Summer 14 features, some of the new cool features that are coming out. I think you guys will be excited about. Really allows the apps to go more viral and kind of code your way out of different situations. This is a developer-centric webinar, so you know, we're going to have lots of demos. We're going to drop into code and really dig down deep. So, what is Force.com Canvas? So it's part of the integration stack here at Salesforce, and there's a lot of different ways you can integrate with Salesforce. You can integrate at the data layer, through external objects, cross-sort data sharing. You can integrate at the application tier, through Apex calls, APIs, streaming, messaging. Here for Force.com Canvas, we integrate at what we call the UI level. So we integrate your UI into Salesforce UI, and we give you an SDK, and we handle the authentication and all that, and the management of the UI. So that's such that your app looks fully integrated with Salesforce. So what we allow you to do is kind of take an existing or a new web application, and the key there is web application, as long as it talks HTML and JavaScript, kind of the lowest common denominator, we can bring it in. Now, it's not a magic bullet. It's not going to bring in, it can bring in your existing apps, but the more you take advantage of our SDK, the more benefit you're going to get. So the more you take advantage, the less it's going to look like an iframe just being brought in. It's going to look more integrated. It's going to communicate. It's going to take advantage of the context, all that information. So kind of what do we give you? We give you a JavaScript SDK. I think it's around maybe 18K now, that you can include. And what that gives you is the ability to send us events. You can make API calls, REST calls back to Salesforce. We handle the same origin cross-domain problems that you would normally run into with that. So we help you get around that. You can do things like resizing your iframe, subscribe to external scrolling events, request context on demand. So the list of features that are available in the SDK keeps growing. One of the most important things we do is we handle the authentication for you. We do what's called, you can authenticate in one of two ways. And this is authenticating back to Salesforce. And I'll also talk at the end of this presentation how we can authenticate into your application. But if your application wants to communicate with Salesforce, it's going to need an OAuth token. And so what we do is we can handle that one in two ways. We can do what's called a sign request, where we post to your application. The admin has to approve this in advance. We post to your application, and in the body of that post is a big JSON payload that contains contextual information about the user, the org, other things. But most importantly, it contains an OAuth token and a refresh token now. So that you can then use that OAuth token anytime you're making API calls back to Salesforce. And you can make those API calls from the browser, or you can pass it to your server and make it from there. Or you can choose to do the traditional OAuth dance where the user has to click, allow, that kind of stuff. We support both mechanisms. We provide contextual service, which allows you to get contextual information about the user, the org that they're running, the org, org name, org ID, those kind of things, the environment that they're running in, the location where your Canvas app is being hosted. Carrie's going to go into more stuff that we've added around record information. But you can also pass custom parameters as well, and we'll show you how to do that. Like I said, we handle the cross-domain API call issues. So same origin policy, you would not be able to make an XHR call back to Salesforce. We solve that for you. We give you a JavaScript eventing model that you can send events to Salesforce. Salesforce can send well-defined events to you. You can create your custom events. You can send events to Visualforce pages to Canvas apps to Canvas apps, all on separate domains. All that happens within the browser. And we also provide the management and registration of this. So your admins can decide where these apps show up and who can see them, or revoke permissions, or disable them, or install them, those kind of things. So we give you the full administration lifecycle. So what does it do? It takes your existing web application, like the one on the left, and it surfaces it within Salesforce. Voila. This is just showing in the very first place we expose Canvas apps, which is in the Chatter tab. You click on those apps on the left, and it gets activated and displayed there. So the idea is you code it, we show it, and what happens there is take any of your applications. These applications can be written in any language they want. A lot of people ask, when would I use Visualforce Pages over Canvas? Both great technologies. Visualforce Pages are running on the Salesforce servers. Canvas apps are running on either your servers or Heroku or some other third party or some other cloud, and we bring them in. Apex Pages, you can choose any JavaScript framework we want, but you've got to write them in the Apex controllers on the back end for your controllers. So it's a bit of proprietary. With Canvas, you can write in any language you see fit. With Apex, you kind of have to adhere to our life cycle for deploying new versions, for any type of development where you have a team of people checking out files, things like that. You kind of have to adhere to our way of deploying the application. With Canvas, you own that application, you handle deploying it, you handle updating the changes, your version control, whatever you want to do, you do that. Again, both great technologies and complementary. Like I said, they can communicate with one another. So let's talk about some of the features that are available today that were just released in the spring 14. These are all available today. So we're always updating the locations or adding to the locations, places where you can surface your Canvas app. The very first release, almost 2 years ago, we gave you the Chatter tab, which allows you to just expose it on the Chatter tab, which gives you a list of applications, and users can click on those, and then they get exposed. We then gave you Visualforce pages, and then we gave you multiple apps on a Visualforce page. You can even have multiple instances of the same app on a Visualforce page. And then these apps can communicate with one another and whatnot. The Service Cloud team did a great job of integrating Canvas apps into the Service Cloud, and you can purchase apps, Canvas apps on the App Exchange and install them into your Service Cloud. Any Canvas app can be published on the App Exchange and be sold there. We gave you the publisher. The publisher, that is full GA now. So that's the Chatter. It's the Chatter publisher. So just where you put a file post or a text post or a poll post, you can have your own Canvas app serving up your own kind of post or feed. And that app could be, say, like a travel app that you could share an itinerary with something. And you can also expose apps within Canvas apps within the feed. So even little tiny Canvas apps within the feed, and this all works on mobile, and it allows you to show us a preview, and then when they click on that preview, it kind of inline activates the Canvas app within the feed. We also gave you mobile nav, and Carrie's going to talk about some more areas where we've added mobile, but we now fully support Salesforce One. Let's talk about some of the features that we've added for Spring 14. We've added to the scrolling and resizing and auto resizing so that you can listen for external events. So you can really do things like infinite scrolling and those kind of things, and kind of just resize your app to perfectly fit your content. So again, it doesn't look like an iframe. You don't have the double scroll bars and things like that. Better error handling where you can register your own callbacks. Multiple Canvas apps on a single page that can communicate through eventing. We provide a pub-sub model, which is just JSON payloads going back and forth. Again, we have well-defined events, and you can create your own. We fully support the streaming API. So as part of our eventing mechanism, just as easy it is to just one line, you can say, I want to subscribe to a streaming event. So anytime any object changes on Salesforce, you get a notification of that event within your Canvas app, and you don't have to include any other third-party JavaScript, whether it's Dojo or whatever. You don't have to include that. That's all part of just the Canvas SDK itself. And we have better community support. So anywhere you have communities, you can have Canvas apps now. Communities is a real hot commodity, and Canvas is fully supported in communities. We've also added to the one of the big releases, part of the big release for Spring was Salesforce One, and we were a big part of that. So you can add Salesforce Canvas apps into Salesforce One. You can add them in 3 places. Those kind of iPhone images down there on the bottom are the 3 different places, and how when you activate it, what's the ultimate result after you've activated. So in the Publisher Actions, when you just go into Publisher Actions, you will see your Canvas app in there. If you supply an icon there, you'll see it, but we'll also display the default icon. And when they click on that, that's the point where we activate your Canvas app. There's the top portion there that's rendered by Salesforce. The bottom portion is your iframe. But we provide well-defined events for going back and forth, such that you can enable the share button, things like that, know when you're being activated, deactivated. We also support, like I said, Chatter Canvas in the feed. Again, on the left-hand side, what's rendered there is kind of like a little preview of your app, a little description, a little thumbnail URL. All that content right there lives on Salesforce, but once you click that app, anything that is activated then does not live in Salesforce. And one nice thing about Canvas apps is they can get under the firewall, or behind the firewall, or on your VPN. So any application or any website that is normally not exposed publicly can be reached through Canvas because it's the browser that's hitting it. And as long as your browser has access to that application, we have access to it. And we don't see that information. We're just displaying that information in there for you. It's sandbox within an iframe. It'd be kind of just like you popping up another tab in a browser. The third way is mobile navigation, where you can add your app to the left-hand side of things, the left-hand nav bar or stage left, whatever you want to call it. You can add your app there, so it's going to be just a click away. You can customize that, and right away you just activate your canvas, and the full thing pops up there. So a lot of cool new places that you can expose your Canvas apps. Now with that, I'm going to hand it over to Carrie, and she's going to give you a great couple demos and talk about some of the new Spring 14 features.
Great, thanks, Chris. If you want to make me presenter, and I'll get started here. Great, thank you. All right. So in the Summer 14 release, we continue to focus on adding a lot of flexibility to Canvas and allowing you to add it to a lot of different places. In previous releases, the only way to get the Canvas app displayed on a record detail page was to go ahead and embed it into a Visualforce page and then add that Visualforce page to the layout. Now, this works, and it gives the developer a lot of flexibility and an ability to add customized behavior by passing in some parameters. However, it adds a little bit of UI overhead, since Visualforce pages inside a record detail page are contained within an iframe, and Canvas apps are contained within an iframe. You have a dual iframe situation, which adds a little bit of, it's a little bit difficult from a UI standpoint. And you can still do it this way, but now you have the ability to use a Canvas app as just a standalone layout item without having to embed it into a Visualforce page. We've expanded the amount of information that can be included in the sign request context. You can now specify record information by including fields from the object where the app is displayed, if it is displayed on an object. Your Canvas app can then act on this information and use it however it wants to use that information. You can either do it by adding it to the Visualforce component, by adding the entity fields there, or if you're using the Canvas app outside of a Visualforce page, we've added this concept of an Apex lifecycle handler, so you can add the information that way. A lifecycle handler gives you the flexibility to override a lot of the default behavior and add parameters and record fields. This is just an Apex class that implements the Canvas lifecycle handler. And this is going to run before the Canvas app renders. So you can change what is sent in the sign request. You can reduce the number of things that are sent there. You can also change the default URL. You can do this based on the location of the app if you'd like. If it's in a certain location and you'd rather have it go to a different URL based on the location, you can certainly do that. One restriction there is that it needs to be within the same domain and port. Just for security reasons, we don't want to have someone sending the Canvas URL to a different website altogether. This is also where you're going to add parameters or record fields if you aren't using a Visualforce page. So first, I'm just going to show you the Heroku app that we have that we're using as a Canvas app for the demo. This is pretty standard. It's an app that you can build through the workbook tutorials on developer.salesforce.com. It's just an invoicing system. It's built with Spring, and it uses a Postgres database that runs on Heroku. The whole app runs on Heroku. It's completely outside of Salesforce, except when we add it as a Canvas app, which we can do. So I've added it as a Canvas app, and I've added the Canvas app to a Visualforce page. Now this Visualforce page just brings a Canvas app in here, and it also passes a parameter in. This is the order ID parameter that it's getting from the invoice statement. So when this app runs on the invoice statement page, it's going to take that ID and send it as a parameter to the Canvas app. The Canvas app is going to take that ID in and then use the ID to display the correct invoice or order based on the invoice ID. Take a look at what we've got. So this is live in Spring 13, and then I'll show you how to update that for summer. So here's an invoice I've got going, and I do have it in the layout on a Visualforce page. You can see here my app has auto grow functionality, so it will increase in size the more line items I have, but it's got this scroll bar right here. Now, this scroll bar is due to the dual iframe functionality. So this scroll bar is actually for the Visualforce page, not for the Canvas app itself. It looks fine and it works, but I'd really like to change it so I don't see that at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the layout page. I'm going to edit it. And in Summer 14, we've added this to the layout editor, this Canvas apps section. Any Canvas app that has a location set to mobile cards or layouts is going to appear here, so you can add it directly onto the layout. I'm just going to add it right to the same section that I've got the other Visualforce page, right next to it, just so we can see the differences there. I'll save it and we'll go back to our invoice. You can see I now have two Canvas apps loading. And this Canvas app that's just a Canvas component is loading completely. It doesn't have the iframe or the scroll bar for the iframe, and it works just the same way as the other one does. Note here that I'm pulling the correct information for the invoice, even though I haven't passed in the ID of the invoice object. So the way I'm handling that in my Canvas code is here. I'll show you the code. Again, this is my Canvas app. It's a Spring app. This part's written in Java. And in my post method, I have a function or a piece of code here that will check and see if there are parameters. If there are, I'll use the order ID parameter and get the order page based on that order ID. If there aren't any parameters, then I'm going to go ahead and check the record object. Now that record object is going to be part of the environment context object that comes through in the sign request. And it's always going to have an ID associated with it because all objects have an ID. It could have other fields depending on what you pass in the entity fields portion of either the Apex Lifecycle Handler or the Visualforce page, but it's always going to have the ID, so I can count on that. I'm going to use it to bring back the correct order based on that ID. If you do want to include more record fields or change the Canvas app's default behavior or pass in parameters, what we're going to do there is use an Apex class as a lifecycle handler. I said it's just an Apex class, so I'm going to write these just wherever I write Apex classes. In this case, I'm going to do it here in the app. Mine is called Fulfillment Handler. I'm going to edit it. And you can see it implements the Canvas lifecycle handler. It overrides two methods, exclude context types and onRender. And exclude context types is where you're going to take out pieces of the sign request. Say I don't want to use any of the information that has to do with organization. I can take all that information out of the sign request, which will send me a much smaller payload and can increase performance. OnRender is going to run before the Canvas app renders. So you can do any kind of Apex logic you'd like here. You can run a SOQL query, use the results of that query to pass into the Canvas app as a parameter if you'd like. You can also take a look at what's going to be sent in the context and make decisions based on that. You can add entity fields to go on the record object, or you can add parameters here if you'd like, if you need parameters as well. This is also where you can set a different Canvas URL path. In this case, I'm going to check out what, the context. If the display location is chatter, I'm going to change the URL path. Maybe I don't want to see everything if I'm on the chatter page. Maybe I want to see something different. So here I'm just setting it to the home page. And again, this path has to be relative for security reasons. So now I can, the way to set this up on an app is to go to the app edit page, scroll down to the very bottom, and here's the lifecycle class that you'll add to it. You can come here, pick my fulfillment handler class, and save that. Now if I look at it on the chatter page.
So cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so what we've got there is with the combination of Apex Lifecycle Class Handler and the ability to add Canvas apps to page layouts, I no longer, but I still can, right? No longer really need to wrap my Canvas apps in a Visualforce page. I get a better rendering, probably quicker response because there's no double iframe, and I can fine tune my context and path like that. So.
Yep, absolutely. Again, you can still use a Visualforce page if you want to. This just gives you a little bit more flexibility.
Cool.
Again, if I look at it on the Chatter tab, here it's loading, and this is just a different page within my app. Okay. We've added some things for mobile as well. Just like you can put a Canvas app directly on a page layout, you can also just add it as a mobile card, which is going to be the second or third page of an object in the mobile app. Here you can only do one or the other. You probably don't want both just because they're going to have duplicate apps within the same record and it might look a little funky, and so we've restricted that. Canvas apps have always used parent sizing events, but now we also have one for mobile orientation. When you subscribe to the Canvas.orientation event, your app is going to be notified whenever the user rotates mobile device, and you can make UI decisions kind of based on that information. One other thing for mobile, we've added the ability to provide your own logo here, something that was missing in Spring 13, but we've just added it in Summer 13. So you can either use your own logo or you can use the default Canvas logo, and that's fine too. To add a mobile card, you go to the layout of the object you want to add it onto. In this case, I'll add it to the invoice statement again. Now, like I said, you can add it to 2 places. So my fulfillment app is grayed out, but I've just added another one here just for demo purposes. So I'm going to drag my mobile fulfillment app onto a mobile card, save that. And then if I go look at that in Salesforce 1, here are my invoice statements. If I pick one, here's the front page and the mobile card. Second page here. This is going to load right here. This is my Canvas app here. Now, one thing that's really important to note is this is just a preview on this first page, or this second mobile card page. When you do click on this, it's going to take you into a full view of the Canvas app. So what you really want to do here is check to see what we're calling it a sublocation. That's new in Summer 14 also. It's part of the signed request as well, part of the location. So you're going to get a preview sublocation. You want to check that and make sure that you're not displaying anything that appears clickable to the user, because when you do click on this, it's going to open into a different view. So if someone clicks onto a button or something like that, it's not going to do what they're expecting. So I'm going to click on it. It's going to load my full view of the app, and you can see right here. So I'll take a look at the code for this. It's very simple. All you need to do is get the sublocation from the environment context. And in my order page function, I'm going to pass that sublocation in. And then I'm going to send it to a different view based on that sublocation. In this case, I have a mobile card preview and a mobile card full view. Here's my full view. We've also added the orientation event. It's very similar to subscribing to any other event in Canvas. You just use the subscribe, give it the name of the event, which in this case is Canvas orientation, and give it the function you want to perform. Listener here. Right now, my function is just updating the UI with the payload.orientation event. It's just going to say 90, just to show you that. Okay. Another function that we've added is the ability to have users self-approve sign request apps. In the past, if you wanted to use sign requests for your app, you had to make sure that the admin pre-approved each profile or permission set before the user could even see the app. in Summer 14, you can now specify that users can self-authorize. So the first time a user tries to see the app, they can be directed to an OAuth flow, and they'll be given a refresh token that way. Every other time they look at the app's going to be normally displayed, so they only need to go through the OAuth flow once. The way we're doing this is Salesforce will send your app a GET request when it requires authorization. So when we see that there's not a refresh token. With the request, we're going to include the parameter to let you know that it's from Salesforce. So if you're getting other GET requests from somewhere else, you can look at the parameter. It says it's SFDC requires authorization, and then you can kick them into an OAuth flow, get the authorization. When the app's already been authorized, we're just going to make a post request to your app just like any other time. And that looks like this. Again, I already have my post coded up. That's fine. But then I'm going to add my get here. Again, I'm looking for a parameter underscore SFDC canvas underscore canvas underscore auth. And if I see that parameter, I'm going to return the user approval view instead. So that's going to send us to userapproval.jsp, where it's going to display a link to kick into the OAuth flow. This is the standard Salesforce or Canvas OAuth flow that we've had since the beginning. But at the end, we're going to do a repost, which is a new function. And this repost is going to refresh the sign request and refresh the Canvas app. So once you go through the OAuth flow, the user is going to get that app refreshed and see the normal content. So the way I hook that up is I go into the Manage Apps, Connected Apps. You can see here I have it set to admin approve users. I'm going to change that to all users may self-authorize. Save it. Now when I go back to a page that has the Canvas app on it, I'm going to see something just a little bit different. I'm going to be directed to approve the app. So this is part of my Canvas view. You do have to code this yourself. It'll send me to the Salesforce OAuth flow. I'm going to allow it. It's going to refresh the app here. Now every other time that I go to the app, it knows that I'm already authorized and it'll load it normally. Okay. The last feature that we've added is Canvas in SAML. So I'm going to give it back to Chris so he can explain that and go through a demo. All right, there you go,
Thanks,
Chris.
Gary.
Sure.
Oh, if I can find my screen here. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to talk about it's a new summer feature, and we've added some functionality to deal with better with single sign-on. We support SAML. But there are many different SAML providers, and I'm going to do a demo of where we kind of do Salesforce to Salesforce because Salesforce, I won't say trivially, but it straightforwardly supports identity provider and service provider. So I'm going to hook up on the Canvas side a service provider org that's going to serve up a Visualforce page as a Canvas app. But you may have other single sign-on capabilities, and the way a lot of these different single sign-ons work is through some type of web flow. And what typically happens is we would post to your URL, and what would happen, it would get redirected here over to this thing, pick up a cookie, it would say, yes, this is that person, send you back, and once that cookie's there, then they would allow you to go in. The problem with that is you would end up losing your sign request and you don't have your OAuth token anymore. So we've given you the ability to kind of re-request the sign request on demand. So we give you two methods for that. We give you a repost, which is more server-centric. We will repost your website such that if you have that cookie, you shouldn't get redirected again. So we'll repost you, and you can handle the sign request on the server side. Or you can actually request it directly through JavaScript, which we will just send you a callback, which includes the sign request. And that refresh sign request doesn't require the client object. All, as you can see here, all it requires is a callback function. So why do I need this? I mean, we talked about, oh, we have sign request and we have OAuth. Why do I need, what's this single sign-on? Well, sign requests and OAuth are really for authenticating into Salesforce, the host org that's hosting the Canvas, that's not rendering the Canvas, that's not running the Canvas app, but consumes the Canvas app. What we never did a good job of was authenticating into your application. Now, you could have provided a login button, or if they logged in it through another tab, then they'd be automatically logged in because the iframe is hitting the same domain as that tab. But it was kind of a two-step process. So if you want automatic authentication into your website, SAML's a good way to do that. Or maybe other single sign-ons. I'm not guaranteeing we support every single sign-on solution out there. Your mileage may totally vary with some of these, but we've tested it on ours and some others, and it worked for us, so it's a good start, and we hope everybody gets a lot of good mileage out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop into a demo. And what I've got here is I've got a identity provider org, and again, that is my hosting, my main org where you would have your Canvas apps. I'm actually going to log out here and log in as my administrator. Just so that you can see where the Canvas app is and what needs to. So I'm going to go to Setup. I'm going to go to the normal place where we configure Canvas apps. So here I have a Canvas app, just my last name, Jolly Service Provider. And what I've got here is, first I'll scroll down to the Canvas section. You'll see there's a new type of field here. It's called SAML initiation method. And we support, well, we support 3 options here, but really 2 types of initiation methods. We support identity provider initiated and service provider initiated. And that's kind of a SAML thing, whether the flow, the dance between the web apps is either initiated from the identity provider or the service provider. And again, the service provider is the application that's hosting or rendering and servicing or serving up your Canvas app. So identity provider happens to work better with Salesforce to Salesforce because it just does. I mean, it doesn't require you to go to the login screen and click the button down there for single sign-on. So identity provider, if you're doing Salesforce to Salesforce, choose identity provider. But we support both, but your SAML provider might only support service provider initiated. So we kind of just give you those 2 options. And like I said, I have a service provider org here. It's just another org, and I'm going to reference an Apex page. Right here I just have a simple Canvas Visualforce page. It's just going to act as my Canvas app. So one thing, when you do SAML initiation method, you have to specify within the same connected app the SAML information that's displayed right here. So you have to configure that information here. I'm not going to go into how you configure SAML and all that. There's plenty of blogs out there, and we are actually releasing a blog that will walk you step by step basically through the demo that I'm giving you right here, so that you can configure two Salesforce organizations to communicate through SAML and being surfaced up as a Canvas app. So that's on my identity provider side. Now I'm going to switch over to a different browser that has my service provider org. So I can see in the URL that I'm on my service provider side. And I don't have any Canvas apps here because my service provider isn't hosting any Canvas apps. But what it is hosting is that Visualforce page. So I'm just going to go over to my Visualforce pages, and I'll see that Canvas Visualforce app that I showed you the URL on the identity provider side. And let's just take a look at that. So I'm going to go in there, a little time display here. And what we're going to see is kind of a use of um, the new API that's available. And like I said, there's two new methods, refresh sign request and repost. And again, depending whether you want a JavaScript solution or a server-side solution, you kind of pick one of these. But what I've done here is all I'm doing is displaying. I'm going to display information about the service provider org and information about the identity provider org. It'll be more clear when I actually show you the example running. But I update the display after I get this. But the idea here is I've been automatically authenticated into my service provider, and I have an OAuth token for talking back to my service provider. So I really have what's called a SID for one side and an OAuth token for the other side. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to log out of my identity provider org. I'm going to log back in as Chris, because he's not the admin, just a regular old user. Okay, so go to the chatter tab. You'll see my Canvas app here, and when I render it, it's going to invoke the Visualforce page on the service provider side, and you'll notice that this is my service provider information here. I know that the username is, I just changed it to Chris SP Jolly. My service provider org is my org name, and I have a SID, so I'm automatically authenticated, and I can make my API calls on that side, or if I want to make my APIs on this call, I have an OAuth token. By the way, we've also introduced a refresh token, which when the OAuth token expires, you can get a new OAuth token through the refresh token. Be sure if your refresh token comes back as null, you need a special OAuth. When you set up your Canvas app, you got to make sure that one of your OAuth scopes is set for refresh token. So just something to note if you see that. And I just have a button here that'll actually refresh that, and you'll see how quick that is. It just makes a quick JavaScript call to the other side, gets it, refreshes it, and sends it back. So very quick, and like I said, you can use either method. I happen to use the JavaScript one here. So that kind of shows you how to, do single sign-on to another org here. You might be asking, all right, well, what's a real world use case for this? So let me log back out of this. We have multiple orgs here at Salesforce, and we're always kind of going back and forth, and a lot of companies have different orgs. And one of the problems is I might want to, I don't know, combine information like a chatter feed. So what I have another Visualforce page out there that, let's go into the apps. Let's go to edit my Canvas app. And I'm going to change my Canvas URL. By the way, the OAuth token that I talked about was, see this refresh one? If your refresh token is null, this means you do not have this permission. This OAuth scope, sorry. Even though you have full access, you still need to add that one. So that's kind of something to note. Very common problem people run into. I have this other hopefully I spelt that right. And I have this other Visualforce pages that basically just combines my chatter feeds from both apps and kind of does a quick sort on them, and then brings back the combined results merged together. So let me log out again. Let me go back in as Chris. All right. So we go back in there, go to my chatter tab, click this. And what I should get is, this is more designed for mobile. And by the way, this all works on mobile. You can see these are I've kind of intermixed my chatter feed from service provider org and identity provider org, and such that I can kind of get them in. I do a little bubble sort based off date, and I display them together. So if you want to kind of combine data from both orgs, this is a way to do it. Again, it's mostly for authenticating into your app, but this just gives you, it's another another part of the SDK that you can take advantage of. So I hope you get a lot of mileage out of it. Back to the presentation. So that was the demo. Little recap. In Canvas Summer, Carrie kind of talked about some really cool things there. Make it easier to leverage your apps in Salesforce. She showed you record information. So whether your Canvas app is loaded on the accounts page, it will get an account ID or even more account information if you specify. Or if it's on the order page, it will get you the order ID. So, and with the Apex Lifecycle Handler and the ability to put Canvas apps directly on page layouts, the need for wrapping your Canvas app in a Visualforce page while still 100% supported kind of goes away, and you can get a faster rendering, better visualization. You no longer double iframes. Carrie showed you that the scroll bar issue went away. So it's kind of a nicer way, and again, just a better way to kind of code your way out of things, and Canvas is more now of a first-class citizen. We're trying to, anywhere you can expose Visualforce pages, you can expose Canvas apps. With the user-approved sign request apps, so you can make your apps a little bit more viral. You can delegate this approval process down to your users, so your admins no longer have to particularly specify, or a particular user can opt out whether or not they don't want the Canvas app to actually have certain information. More Salesforce One support, record detail, mobile cards, mobile nav. So we're continuing to expand our footprint into Salesforce One. And then I showed you the got into some of the deeper developer authentication options. On-demand sign request, which can be useful even if you're not doing some single sign-on. Sometimes you get redirected, or you go to another page and you've lost that sign request and you want to get it back. So it's kind of a way to get it back. By the way, if you get redirected or you go to some other domain besides the domain of the Canvas URL, if somebody clicks and goes to evil.com, none of the SDK will really work. It is designed to only accept requests from that original domain. So we did a major security audit on all this, and it got passed by our security team. And this is all very secure. So don't be worrying about somebody going to evil.com and getting a hold of your sign request. Resources, lots of resources. Gosh, go to our developer guide, or we have an integration workbook, integration discussion boards, all that stuff. Most importantly, Jay Hurst, our Canvas PM. Feel free to reach out and contact him. He will, especially if Canvas is not enabled for your org, he can help you out with that. But by default, at least all new orgs and a lot of existing orgs, I think it's been enabled. So, but if for some reason it's not, feel free to reach out to him. We have a survey. Please fill out the survey if you find this useful. I always want to know how we can improve, and you know, a little more coding, less coding. But yeah, go ahead and fill that out. Right now, I'm going to open it up for questions. I know people have been answering questions live as they come in. I'm going to try and pick a few that maybe haven't been answered. Let's start with, will the sign request be supported for PE orgs in Summer 14? The answer to that is yes, as long as the user has API access. We make some API calls, so they just have to have API access. What is the eventing model in Canvas application? It's a simple hub subtype model where we have, it's a namespace dot event name. We have special reserved namespaces here at Salesforce for our well-defined events. But you can create your own custom events, and it's just an event name, and you say publish and pass it a JSON payload, and anybody who subscribes to that can receive that event. So very simple eventing model. In the architecture image under any device, I see the Windows phone icon. Is this a mistake? No, it's not a mistake. We do support the Windows Phone. We don't have a native app for that, but the web app supports that. There are some limitations, I believe, like the orientation event doesn't come across in Windows. It's just we don't receive the event, so we can't pass it on to you. Um, so yeah, but it's an eight, basically HTML5, which is supported by mobile phones. Um, shall we use Canvas apps in Salesforce One mobile card? Yeah, absolutely. All those different places in mobile. We have an older in-house web app built originally for IE6. Is it possible to host this as a Canvas app in an newer version of IE10 with an IE5 Quarks mode? I think the short answer to that is no, but please consult the Force.com Canvas Developers Guide for support of browser configurations. We basically support IE8 and above. It's just when you run in Quarks mode, it runs in Quarks. It runs in backwards compatibility mode. It runs basically as IE6. We basically rely on the post message to be there, so that we can communicate back and forth. That's how we support that. Are direct database connections from to Salesforce available without having to use REST or bulk APIs? Not sure exactly what you mean by direct database connection, or if that's part of this. I know you can make REST APIs from either from the client or your server. You're fully allowed to make, you're not limited. You have that OAuth token, and it'll work from your server or the browser. Well, that's about it. So, I don't know, Carrie, you have anything else, or does that kind of conclude our webinar? So.
No, I think that was great. Thanks, Chris.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out and joining. Please, if you want a better overview of what Canvas is, if you're new to Canvas, please, refer to older webinars out there, just like this one will be posted, and we'll be doing new ones to even talk about new features in the future. And please come join us at Dreamforce, where we will be presenting again, more than likely having classes and things like that. So thank you very much.